What up, y'all? This is Patrick Hayes, and today I want to make a video about masculinity. I made a video about femininity not too long ago, and I met with a friend named Jamie Schuster who's doing a male empower movement, teaching Hakka, the indigenous tradition of his culture. And I was asked by him what masculinity was to me, healthy masculinity. And there's so much talk today in the media about toxic masculinity. You hear this term all the time. People are always criticizing how masculinity can be toxic. But there's not very much spoken about what healthy masculine is. Like, what is divine masculine? What is the archetype for divine masculine? How do we identify that? So in this video, I want to talk about that so that I can hopefully draw some attention to the kinds of qualities that that we can identify as a healthy masculine, so that young boys or anyone that's trying to align with their inner masculine can maybe have a little bit more awareness of what that looks like or what to look for in a role model. So when I think about healthy masculine, what comes to me is a book that I read called King, Warrior, Magician, Lover. If you haven't read that book, I highly suggest it. It was written by several Jungian psychologists that went very deep into the archetypal expression of what masculine is. And the way that they describe it is that each one of these four archetypes, the king, the warrior, the magician, and the lover, has you'd say like a balanced or a divine expression, right? And then there are two different shadow aspects to each one of these archetypes. And there's a passive shadow and there's an active shadow. So what happens is when young boys are growing up in the world, or I guess anyone that's trying to identify with the masculine, when they're growing up, they look to men or masculine figures in their reality to emulate. And depending on what archetypes are available or what kind of versions of masculine are available for them to identify with, that's how they learn. And the issue with culture nowadays is that there are very few healthy masculine archetypes to identify with. And more often than not, there is a selection of the shadow aspects of these archetypes and not enough of the balanced aspects of these archetypes. And this was very much the story for me. When I grew up, there wasn't very many positive masculine influences or role models to identify with. It was basically the passive or active shadows. And there were, very strong passive and active shadow representations of the warrior, right? There was very strong passive and active shadow representations of the lover, and I got a lot of my influence through places like gangster rap and domination culture, or a lot of what Hollywood movies show. And so I didn't really have very many role models. I think this is very common for a lot of us. So I'm going to go through the four different archetypes. First, I'll start with the king. The king is a divine leader. The king is a provider. He looks out for his people, right? The divine king has the compassion and the empathy to understand the plight of his people and to bring solutions to them, to be a balanced leader that can listen to everybody and that can make decisions on behalf of everybody in a way that benefits the all. This is the balanced king archetype. But the two different shadow aspects of the king is the tyrant on the active side. The active shadow is the tyrant. That's the tyrant king that just basically controls everyone and for his own amusement or his own betterment, but doesn't care about his people, right? And then we have the passive shadow. And the passive shadow is the king that can't lead, that gets overwhelmed, that doesn't know how to be a leader, right? So that's the king. So then we have the warrior. Now the warrior is, the balanced warrior is the warrior that has courage, that is wise, that knows what fight to choose, that doesn't, run off with arrogance and try to fight everyone, but is very calculated. He knows his weaknesses, he knows what he's capable of, and he knows how to be diplomatic, but he's also not afraid and will not back down. And if he needs to fight, he will fight if that's the wisest thing for the rest of the army or for the rest of his people, right? So this is the balanced warrior. But then we have the active warrior and the passive warrior. Now the active warrior is the bully, right? The active shadow of the warrior is the bully. It just, it terrorizes other people, right? And we see this all over the place. The other side, of course, is the weakling or the wimp, right? That can't protect himself, can't protect anyone. But the balanced warrior is the protector of the people. The bully, of course, takes advantage of people, and then the weakling can't save anyone or help anyone. But ideally, the warrior would then protect the weakling from the bully. And you could see this as like the shepherd, right? So we have the wolves and we have the sheep. You've heard this metaphor before. You have the wolves and the sheep. But the shepherd is like the warrior. It protects the sheep from the wolves. Next one is the lover. And this was really big also. So the lover, we have the balanced lover is the lover that has the capacity to truly love, has the capacity to fall in love with femininity, with a particular female or a particular woman or a particular expression of femininity, and truly see the beauty in that and express love in a healthy and balanced way. On the active shadow side of the lover, we have the womanizer or the player. And this was really big in the gangster rap culture also, and in the kind of mentality that I was influenced by as a young child. And this was the idea of like being a player or getting all the girls or just trying to have sex with as many different girls as you can and not really being able to love or give yourself over. And in fact, love was frowned upon in, when I was a teenager. Like it was looked at as a weak thing to love somebody. So this was really big. Now, of course, the passive shadow of that is the person that is insecure around women or doesn't have the capacity to get a woman or to woo a woman. And so you have the active shadow and the passive shadow, the player or like the dork that can't get a girl, right? Those are kind of like the two different archetypes. And there wasn't enough of the healthy lover archetype in my reality for me to see that and to align with it. I think this is common for many, many different people. So the fourth archetype is the magician. And the magician is really interesting because the magician is like the genius or the intellectually savvy individual, like the magician. They're like a guru of some sort of intelligent craft. And this is somebody that, when balanced, the magician is someone that uses their intelligence to serve people, to help people, right? To inform people that aren't informed correctly or that are ignorant, to help them to become more intelligent and to understand things better. The active shadow of the magician is the magician that uses their intelligence to destroy other people or make people look bad, right? You see this really commonly all over the place, where it's all about who owned the other person, who told the other person off and made them look stupid, right? This is an active shadow of the magician. See, a balanced magician can use their intelligence to help somebody out that may be wrong, but they're not there to try to shove their face in the sand and make them feel dumb, right? They're there to actually help them, but do it in a way that is graceful, that actually serves the person instead of makes them less than. Now, the passive version of the magician is, of course, the dummy, the one that is unintelligent. And, in today's culture, you see this all over the internet. People really don't want to be the dummy. They really want to be, and they identify oftentimes with the active shadow because there's not enough balanced divine expressions of the magician for people to emulate and align with, right? So these are the four archetypes. And, when I think about it to myself of, what the divine masculine is the divine masculine is somebody that embodies the balanced representation of all four of these archetypes. And this is something, that I shoot for, right? That I aim for. And it's something that I feel like if there's more awareness of what these balanced or divine representations or archetypes of the masculine are, then more people can work to emulate that. More people can look to identify these healthy representations in the culture and then draw more attention to them so that we can all learn how to express our masculine in a more balanced and divine way. So thanks so much for tuning in. This is Patrick Hayes. Like, subscribe, share with your friends. If you have any questions or comments, be sure to put them in the comments below. If you haven't hit the bell button, hit the bell button, and then you will be notified every time I release a video. and I'm super excited to continue sharing content with you. So thanks so much, and I'll talk to you next time. One love.